My name is Cheryl Leong, and welcome to the Woman Impact Summit. I'm founder of Leading with Consciousness, and today I am your mistress of ceremony. The Woman Impact Summit, right here, we share the different ways of addressing economic opportunities of government institutions, private sectors, and regional leaders working on special initiatives for women. Visibility and access to women of all diverse backgrounds around the world is important to us, and that is why we make this a completely free event. We firmly believe that true power comes from connecting with each other to support entrepreneurship, boost your business and ideas. Women Impact Summit is possible thanks to the collaboration of different organizations and initiatives. PROEXCA, Government of the Canary Islands, U.S. Embassy in Madrid, AWE Program, Afissio, Casa África, Cabildo de Fuerteventura, and Heroikka. We believe in connecting. We firmly believe real power comes from connecting to each other to boost your businesses and ideas. The Heroikka platform will allow you to connect with other businesses and women entrepreneurs, as well as other networking opportunities with participants, speakers, and organizers. Just by registering at Heroikka, you will have access to workshops, events, conferences, and initiatives offered by our network. So don't miss the opportunity, register. It's also a place where we learn leadership skills, entrepreneurial mindset, go-to-market strategies, how to become a vendor of international agencies and multinational companies, among other topics from experts in their fields. You can also find economic opportunities. We will showcase various global initiatives and opportunities from governments, organizations, and companies. Discover, join, and collaborate with ecosystems supporting women-led businesses and entrepreneurship. We are accessible. This is one-of-a-kind international event connecting women of all diverse backgrounds across the world. This event is completely free and will be accessible online from everywhere. Go virtual with us. Heroikka is a digital platform that connects women's project ideas and needs with global networks and social capital. It works with companies, governments, agencies, and professionals to make projects created by women more sustainable. Thanks to these collaborations, we are able to provide access to mentoring, visibility, and economic opportunities for members of the Heroikka community. We bring exposure to your story behind your project. Heroikka provides a platform for women to create projects for social impact. They come to our platform to build connections, access resources, and sustain their business ideas. We can discover impact women-led projects, connect to communities and global talent, build employee engagement, brand recognition, and inclusive programs and outcomes. Thanks to all the people behind this conference from production, Vanessa, Sylvia, Irene, Paula, Rick and Heroikka, Pino, Irina, Micah. With this, I would love to start by jumping into today's program. Today, we are featuring Asia and the Pacific. It is the day where women from the Asia Pacific are going to be featured. There's an exciting lineup of different segments. The first one being a fireside chat called The Power of Shifting. It is featuring Arabella Deluco, founder of CEO at WEXL, and it's interviewed by Aaron Lim, creator, host, executive producer of Bitch Talk podcast.
Hello, Women Impact Summit. I am Aaron Lim, the executive producer, host, and founder of the Bitch Talk podcast based in San Francisco. This is my co-host, Angela Tabora. And we are so happy to welcome the founder of WeExcel.org, Arabella DeLuco. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much to both of you for being here. I'm so happy to finally sit down with you two to talk about, just what we're moving through here and just being women, Asian American women, in this space of entrepreneurship and creativity. It's a privilege to be with the two of you.
Oh, it's our privilege, really. If you can you let our audience know who you are, your bio, where you've come from, what you're doing now?
Yes. Oh, so hello, Asia Day. I am Arabella, and I am the founder of weexcel.org. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that is a family media network with local educational services, and we're here in San Francisco. I was all sorts of things when in my 20s. I was a newspaper reporter, a tech marketer, an event producer, and it was a hard thing for me to realize in my 30s that I was not on the path that I was meant to be. And it took me a few years to really dig deep inside personally to understand what is it that I wanted to create and build in this world, in this lifetime. And I finally figured it out, but still figuring it out. It's a process always. It's a process of growth and self-reflection all the time. And so I'm here to talk about that sort of process, that sort of journey, entrepreneurial journey, which can be super scary, but it's also rewarding. And I believe that's why we're all here.
Yeah, before we get into We Excel, can you talk about what some red flags were for you when you were working in the tech industry? And a lot of times we talk about the difficulties of being an Asian American woman in that field, but also maybe how you channeled some power from that and how being an Asian American woman helped you in that field.
Power. I love it. Yes. Oh my goodness. Such great questions. So when I was in the tech industry, it was interesting because I think I didn't understand my own self-worth. I didn't have the self-worth that I now have built up to have. And I was always surprised when certain people, clients, bosses would be very impressed with the work that I was doing. And I would take that and I would say, oh, I must be good. But then I always felt this, imposter syndrome. We hear this tale over and over again, but the imposter syndrome of, yeah, they see me as this way, like a hard worker, but then they don't really see me as, smart, or, I tend to, yeah, they like my ideas, but then when I push hard on some of their ideas, I would feel very inept, and so it was very confusing. And there came a point where I just realized that whatever it is that someone else wanted me to do for them, or for a community that wasn't really the community I wanted to grow or nurture, I realized I could do that for myself and the community that I want to grow and nurture. And that was a big light, like this, just like the light bulb moment. And the light bulb moment where I said, oh my goodness, people don't see me as creative. I remember the one time that somebody told me I wasn't creative, and I cried so hard. It was my 35th birthday, and I have to do something different, because if this person didn't see me as creative, who's my partner in life, then what is, I must be presenting myself wrong. And so I went back to school, and I just went to City College, San Francisco. And I'm not saying just, because what an incredible place. I met so many people, and they were all different ages, young people who never went to undergraduate, people with master's degrees. I was with multiple languages under their belt, who are teaching, in San Francisco, taking cinema classes with me. I took oil painting classes, and I just found myself through this creative art making, and just creative thinking and allowing myself to fully embody being a storyteller. And that was it. That was the beginning. That was the end of my old life and the beginning of this new shift in myself that really led me out of the tech world.
So how did all of that land you into and finding and being the founder of We Excel?
So I actually started We Excel. I had the idea for it in 2015, and I thought it was going to be for a community of women software engineers, just like Women Who Code. And I said, well, Women Who Code is so great already. There's so many like, women software engineering organizations. Why am I going to do that? Just because that's the industry I was in. That's the community I was building, were software engineering communities. And just because that's what I did and that's what I could do doesn't mean it's what I should be doing. And we actually have partnered with Women Who Code and gave them storytelling workshops that was really enriching for that organization. And so I realized, it needed to be something else. It needed to be in this space of empowering non-normative voices. I liked also just working across the board, across diversity groups, and because like just kind of bringing everyone together, and it was difficult though. Like it was a difficult process. It was a very long process, and we thought that we were going to be in the DEI space, and I really put my whole heart into being in the DEI space and trying that out, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough of the impact that I wanted to make in the world, and I knew that we could go deeper. In art, when you make art, you can always go deeper. And so that's how I felt with the organization. You could always go deeper. Something is missing. There's a missing puzzle here. What is it? And it was a process of elimination, and it was all these different, also like cycling through the right people to work with you, the right partners, right? That there's the right energies to really gather around your mission, because it's not you. And that's another thing about this organization. For it to survive, it has to be outside of me. There can't be something that I have to continuously breathe oxygen into, or else it's just not scalable. And so, that's still a process.
Yes, anybody who's ever met you understands how important community is to you and lifting up your community. And I'm interested to know, for somebody that wants to start a nonprofit, has an idea and is in that position, what is some advice that you got that was really helpful for you? And then what is some advice that you wish you had gotten or were warned about before embarking on this journey?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. But the one thing is, make sure it was truly a nonprofit idea, because it's hard to have a nonprofit. So just to let you, no one ever really told me this when I had the idea for the nonprofit, but most grants that are significant, you have to have 3 years of programming already. And that's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, how do you get programs without any money? And so, finding a business model, right, a social enterprise component to your nonprofit is also really great. But you also have to make sure that social enterprise is functioning correctly under the law of the 501c3 nonprofit. And so that took a lot of understanding, like what we can and can't do. I personally love that we set up a nonprofit now, because it really did keep me personally, as someone who was, I don't know, this sounds cheesy, but it just feels like it was, channeled through me, because I've never really wanted to be a nonprofit founder. I really never have, right? I'm a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer. Like I used to be a newspaper reporter. I was a writer first, right? And so the nonprofit thing came at me very weirdly. Like, I don't know why this transpired this way, but now I'm so glad, because it's not mine. It's not, in the world that we live in Silicon Valley, it's always about like ownership of something and getting a lot of shares of something. And that's okay. That's okay if that's like what you want to do. But I realized like that's not what I came to do here. Especially with We Excel. So We Excel as a nonprofit, if you want to start a nonprofit, make sure it's really the designation you want for your business, because it is a business, but it's not your business. It's a public charity. That's why you're able to get donations into the public charity, because you're in service of your mission. You are in service of the community. Always. Once you once you lose that focus, and I've had sometimes lost that focus because I wasn't understanding. And if I had somebody to constantly tell me that you have to focus on this mission and your service to the community, then, build a nonprofit. And that's why a lot of times, you'll find nonprofits being started by really super rich people, super wealthy people. Because that's what it takes. It takes a lot of money to start a nonprofit, to be in service of the community. But it doesn't mean that you can't be a startup nonprofit like what I did with We Excel. It is possible, but just know it's a long, difficult journey to sustainability. And it's not profitability, it's sustainability. It's your ability to constantly work on that mission until you don't need to work on that mission anymore. Like the March of Dimes started as a polio nonprofit, and then they figured out how to cure polio. So now they're doing, I think, mother like health for mothers and children, right? So that's really the point of the nonprofit, is to be able to work on your mission until you're supposed to be sustainable, until you fix the problem you're trying to fix.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Arabella, to talk about, what this fireside chat is about. It's called the power of the paradigm shift. So I know you're in transition right now with We Excel, and can you talk about the pivot that you're going through right now?
Yeah, so I teased it out a bit. So we were a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion nonprofit, and now we are transforming through this paradigm shift as a nonprofit media network for families, youth and families, with local educational services. It was interesting. The mission still remains. We still have this diverse community of artists and creators like yourselves, who are just incredible forces, who have work that the world needs, but voices that are often going unheard. And so we continue to have and nurture that wonderful, beautiful community that I'm so proud and honored to be part of. And then what we had these like awesome programs, right? Like educational programs, like our We Excel Boundless educational programs for K to 12th graders. And then we have original content that we're producing, including a documentary short film, also about family. And then what we were missing was the audience. Like, who is this for? It's not actually necessarily for our diverse creators, because our diverse creators, we're creating no matter what. We are creating no matter what. But what we were missing was the audience. So there was this, the aha moment again. And now this one in my career for We Excel is just, we tried so hard to fundraise this year off of our mission of, really empowering diverse creators and artists whose voices often go unheard, right? And we tried and tried, and it was so difficult. And I was like, but the work is true, I mean, we were recognized for the work. We got, I received the Jefferson Award for my work. Again, imposter syndrome. I wondered if I was doing, if there's something wrong with me. Like, was I doing something wrong? Was I being inauthentic in the work that I'm doing? No, that's not that. And then, so this is like, something, it was something like missing. And then I started realizing, oh, I have an advisor who's a startup founder in Oakland, and he came to me this summer, seriously, like came to our media lab here in San Francisco, drove here, and we were doing a day of service with Austin Cho, who has 1.1 million, oh no, almost 4 million TikTok followers, right? You've met Austin. So Ian Storer, who's the founder of this space, comes to all of us at the media lab, and he said, Arabella, you have to let all parents sign up for Boundless. He's like, I have families who will pay We Excel for that education. And I was like, oh, holy cow, this is crazy. This is, I didn't see it. I thought that our business model was giving the DEI, themed production services to corporations. And then that, the pandemic happened, and then we lost all those, that work. And then when Ian came to us, and he's like, he had this need for his daughter, and he's begging We Excel to give his daughter Boundless. Boom. The market speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I went to one of my a friend for a long time. She was actually, her name is Kirsten Malm. She is a partner at EY. She went to Harvard Law School, very accomplished woman. And she's a mother of 3 in San Francisco. And she was actually the one who helped us get our 501c3 nonprofit status when she was at Baker McKenzie. I had never went back to her about We Excel until Ian came to me and said, you got to do this. This is the shift. This is your business model. And I pitched it to Kirsten Malm, and she said, I love it. And educational services, after school programs in San Francisco are oversubscribed. I know, I'm a mom of a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And I love it. I'm joining your board. I will donate, and I will join your board.
Wow.
I didn't have to beg. I said, and she started understanding everything. And then I rehashed the deck, which you've seen, Erin. I've rehashed the deck, and I repitched it to every single board member. And I said, listen, if you're not in for this, it's okay. We're going to rebuild everything. But this is the vision, and this is the new mission. It's that missing piece. We added youth and families to the missing puzzle piece. It's already being tested. Here we are. And when Rick came to me, I believe in just the timing of it all, right? Rick, who's the producer here for Women Impact Summit. I've known Rick for 15 years, maybe. We've produced a lot of tech conferences together, and that's why he knows me. He's like, I've been wanting to get you on, and somebody just dropped out. And I said, really funny, because even if he had come to me earlier, I might have not said yes, because we weren't ready to announce.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're ready. So I think the takeaway from all of this is just, it is scary to start anything. So whatever it is, if it's a nonprofit or a for-profit or anything, if it's a film, anything that you have that you want to create and bring into this world, it's scary. And you have to constantly be listening, or else you might miss it. And it doesn't have to be this hard, but you'll always grow. It's challenging, but it's challenging. It needs, find the challenge where you can flow into it, versus like a challenge where it's just so hard, it's impossible, that your health is compromised. I don't do that anymore. I don't compromise my health, because I trust that I'm going to get it done. There are some days I have to not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be okay with that, because your body is telling you gotta stop. Because there are other days, I'll promise you this. If you are listening to yourself, listening to to what's around you, and you're paying attention, and you have to take that break, and you take that break, you think that people are going to think you're lazy, they won't even notice. Because when you come back around, they'll be like, how did you do all these things? And you're like, oh, I guess I was doing it. You know, it is always, you know, you trust yourself, trust you're going to do it. I mean, you too, I know you do it. You get it done. You have so many things. I love the two of you. Anyway, you already know that.
Look, we could go on for forever, but I think we're already at time.
Yeah.
So
and I'm thoroughly inspired, so I gotta
go.
go.
Yeah. So we're gonna go change some things in the world. But thank you.
You already are.
Well, I mean, you know, one podcast at a time. We've been speaking with Arabella DeLuco, the founder of We Excel. And I'm Erin. This is Ange. And we're from Bitch Talk Podcast. Thank you so much, Women Impact Summit.
I hope you were powered up by the last fireside chat. Certainly got me excited. Next one is a wonderful fireside chat between me and Dr. Ramesh Ramachandra, who is a Sri Lankan Singaporean managing director at Talent Leadership Crucible, TLC Asia. She has been recognized by Asia Week as one of Asia's most influential women and has won awards for entrepreneurship. So I hope you enjoy this wonderful chat between me and Dr. Ramesh. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this really special fireside chat with one of my family friends, the Dr. Ramesh, who's founder of Talent Leadership Crucible. I'm Cheryl Leong, founder of Leading with Consciousness. And Dr. Ramesh is also author of the book, The Big Jump into Entrepreneurship 2.0, which is very exciting. It was just released on Amazon. So it's good for us to do this fireside chat to learn more about the book, but also to learn more about what's inside of her mind. She is a very successful entrepreneur in Asia and one of the leading voices in entrepreneurship in Singapore and currently residing in Vietnam.
Thank you so much for the very warm and generous introduction. You know, I have watched you grow. I think I became friends with your mom when you were about 10 years old or maybe even a little bit younger. And you are such a dynamic and engaging woman today, you know, fully self-express yourself. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this fire chat.
So let's begin this really exciting chat, jumping into entrepreneurship, which is to the title of your book. And I think we're addressing women in Asia who are jumping into entrepreneurship, right? And they want to hear from people like you, because when I was growing up, there were very few women like you who were jumping into entrepreneurship. It wasn't something that was given to me like, you know, women should be entrepreneurs. That was never an idea. So watching you as a role model was incredible for me. And so I'm very curious, you know, what was some of the circumstances that led you to entrepreneurship or to making you the entrepreneur that you are today?
Right. Well, you know, I think spot on. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people did not look at entrepreneurship as an alternative career pathway. It was considered risky, but more importantly, it was also deemed to be a pathway that people who did not make it in school took on because there was no other way to make money. And in a culture like Singapore, where I grew up and you grew up, you know, if you had failed as an entrepreneur, that was even worse. So that's why most people did not embrace entrepreneurship. Today, it's a lot more attractive, and most people want to live as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. But, you know, for me, I think what was critical was, number one, I had great role models. In fact, I had one role model. I remember as a 6-year-old, always being curious about a grand uncle that relatives would gossip about. You know, it's like they loved him and they hated him, but they will always talk about him. And as a 6-year-old, it's like, my God, this person is getting so much of attention. I must be this person, right? Because everyone else in the family was a lawyer or an engineer, but they were not getting any attention, but this businessman was. And then as I grew older, my own mother was entrepreneurial, and she would always try different projects. And I don't know whether, you know, whether you remember this, but the early ideas around multi-level marketing were things called like Pyrex or Tupperware. Of course, today you've got the supplements company and other businesses which are sold in a multi-level marketing concept. And my mother would try all these things. And I think largely it was driven by the fact that she'd moved to Singapore and she had to make new friends. And that was the best way to make friends. And so role models is an important piece. Number two was trying to see, connect to a need. And for me, the need was personal. I didn't get a lot in pocket money. So it was really a good way to supplement my pocket money by doing these little projects. And I think sometimes when we are looking for opportunities to be the access point to starting a business, it becomes a little bit harder. So connecting to a need is an easier way because then there's urgency. And also you can own it. The third part, I think, is also something which I find that, I had it naturally because I was sort of born with that in the sense that I was curious. And if you're not curious, I encourage you to develop that because being curious about life, I would go to a big food court. And in those days, it was like a hawker center. And then I would see, a line at the chicken rice store and I would go like, okay, why are people standing there? And how much is this guy making if he's charging $1 a plate, and he's working for 8 hours? And I was just doing the mental arithmetic in my head. And that's what I mean by curiosity, because you need to connect this. And the last thing is about, being a quick study, because when you can connect things and join the dot, it allows you then as an entrepreneur to be able to pivot and adapt, because life is never going to be going according to that plan that you made out, right? And things will happen. And as an entrepreneur, that's an important thing. The last and the most important thing, I think, is that as an entrepreneur, we have to be able to let go of the definition of success and failure. And we have to define what is our own success. And I had a mother who always told me that failure is the pillar in the house of success. So I was never stopped whenever I failed. And God, I failed gloriously in public, and many times, but I never was stopped because I never thought that, that was a loss of face, which is a very Asian thing. And we are almost, fearful of losing face. So I think that's an important piece to also be able to manage.
So I'm very, very curious, just as a follow-up question to something you shared that really spoke to me, that you are fearless about failure. And one of my first jobs was actually an employee of yours at Technology Asia. I mean, I was there for maybe 1 month, but that was actually my first formal job, right? And one of the things I saw in you as a boss and as a founder of a new startup, right? And back then, data science was not like, nobody knew about that. Technology Asia was probably like an early pioneer in data science back then, right?
Yeah.
I saw a fearlessness that I didn't see in a lot of people in you. And that was actually something that I anchored in my mind. It's like, my boss is fearless, right? And I don't know if you have more to say about this fear of failure, because it's rampant in the entrepreneurial world. And so, yeah.
I think, yes, we set up barriers for ourselves, in terms of expectation of how we have to perform and the kind of success that we have to have. But if we can see that, actually in life, it's all about being that best self, and that emerging self is always showing up, and that every experience, whether it's good or bad, it's a feedback in terms of, whether we've performed or what can we learn, then maybe we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. So for me, because of my curiosity, right, it was all about learning. It was all about joining the dots, and it was about practicing that. And it was not about, oh my God, you made a mistake, you're bad, or you're going to look terrible, or people say this about you. So I think that was the big context that I always had about my journey in entrepreneurship. And Cheryl, it's funny that you brought me back to those days, in 1999, 2000, 2001, when I was in the .com space. That business literally was a business whereby I had zero knowledge. I would go into meetings with our clients and I would go like, okay, can you explain to me what is it that you want us to do? And it was that was the beauty of the internet then. People would share and, and then at the end of the day, I'll say, okay, fine, I'll do this report for you and I'm going to charge you X dollars, right? So that kind of collaboration, that kind of openness is something that I miss in today's world, right? Because that is missing today.
Yeah, the .com world versus the current tech world is like a world of difference. It's been a good 2 decades. It's changed a lot. This was a good piece of advice for people to move past their fears and just do it, right? Be fearless.
Yes.
What other pieces of advice can you give women in Asia who are thinking of jumping into entrepreneurship, which is the title of your book, Jumping into Entrepreneurship?
Well, before I talk about some advice for women who are looking at entrepreneurship, I want to make a distinction about entrepreneurship. And I think it's important for us to understand this. There are 2 aspects to entrepreneurship. And the first piece is about an entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's more critical because it's all about being resourceful in life. So if you have a problem, a situation in life, how are you going to go about solving that? Number 2, it's about creating value for yourself, the others, and, in that situation for whatever that you're dealing with. And number 3, it's about managing uncertainty and risk and how you are in the face of all that. And so when you look at that as the definition of an entrepreneurial mindset, you can see that it's so appropriate to have that. And, it's funny because in my early years, as I was an entrepreneur, I was also someone who was very active in the women's movement. And, I didn't go too far out to the bra burning, kind of activism. But I was involved with microcredit funds and I was involved with cooperatives. And, what it was clear for me is that women naturally are more inclined to practice this entrepreneurial mindset because culturally we are expected to take care of families. Women have to take care of the children, they have to take care of the household. So, if something happened to their spouses or partners, they had to step up and they had to make sure that, there was food on the table, children went to school. So most microfinance projects were around women, helping them to find some skills and allowing them to then go out there and make money. And they were also more responsible in returning the loans. So we didn't have to worry about money that we lent to women, right? So it's ironical that women now have sort of they've created a glass ceiling when they look at entrepreneurship. And we're going like, oh, what do we need to know about becoming an entrepreneur? And I'm going like, hey, look, it's in your DNA. Go back to that, right? Trust yourself. But I think it's partly because, unfortunately, the contribution that women have made has never been recognized formally. We've done this contribution as part of the informal sector, right? And I think that was one of the things that I watched my mother struggle because, when she did all these little projects, right, it was to supplement the household budget. But, she never got the satisfaction of being recognized for her financial contribution, right? And it used to irritate her. And, even today, it sort of irritates her, right? And I think maybe that's the piece, right? That women never were recognized for that. So the second aspect of entrepreneurship is actually, well, we've got an idea and we are excited and we are ready and we go and start a company and we run it as an entrepreneur. So you can have an entrepreneurial mindset and you can go and start and run a.
You may not know this, but as your employee, I remember that my mind was not entrepreneurial when I was 20 years old, coming out of university. I was not entrepreneurial. I was very much afraid of money and afraid of success, and also had a very bad relationship to profit. And I was like, I think I'm going into the nonprofit world because, profit feels uncomfortable to me. And you said something to me and you planted a seed that didn't ever grow until my 30s. When I started to think very differently about business. You said, actually, business is spiritual also. And I don't think you even remember telling me that. And I know that now you work with people, families, and you care about the planet, you care about sustainability, you care about a conscious business that, with values and integrity, and you've talked even earlier on in this chat, you talked about that, it's not just about you, it's about community, it's about everyone, right? That business can be good for people in general. And so I think you just have given me advice that has been invaluable in that sense. What else in terms of your hopes for women in Asia? Because the glass ceiling, I believe, is real, that you mentioned, right? That I definitely wasn't raised to believe that someone like me could be an entrepreneur. If not for seeing people like you, I would never believe it. I think in terms of representation, women are not represented when it comes to the top 1%, corporate world, or even, entrepreneurial, we don't tend to be the people with the funds, right?
All right.
So what is your hope for women in Asia? We've got a long way in terms of, overcoming women's rights, sexism, and redistributing wealth to women. What are some of your hopes for women in Asia?
Well, when I look at it, right, the first thing that I want to hope for, and also I'm on this mission to create a movement, right? I think entrepreneurship can be a way of life. And I want people to embrace that. And I never knew that for myself. So my hope is that people can see, and especially women can see, that entrepreneurship is a way of life. And I didn't even discover it for myself until recently when I looked back. Because in 2001, I ended up actually closing down the technology business, Technology Asia, after having raised millions of dollars in funding, looking at listing it, and then aborting the listing, and eventually deciding, maybe the best is to liquidate the company. And so from being valued at, several hundreds of millions of dollars to going to negative was a big blow. And it was public because it was in the news and in the newspapers. And I always thought at that time, when I was dealing with that as a crisis, what am I going to do next? How can I go back and work as an employee? How can I go back and start another business? But I did, partly because I think about how I looked at failure. And I'm so glad that, I was not stopped. But when I look back today, what I can see is a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in knowing that how I've lived my life post that period up to now in the last 20 years is that I've really embraced entrepreneurship as a way of life. There have been times when I've worked for a corporate, and there have been times when I've been running my business. But I brought that entrepreneurial mindset to all aspects of my life. And it's left me experiencing being in charge of my life. And I think that's so satisfying. So that's my first hope, right? That people can embrace it and experience it for themselves. Number two, a very important missing for women entrepreneurs is that we don't have the stickiness of a network like the Old Boys Network. I wish that we can be more inclusive. I wish, we were not bothered by the fact that, if we were to share our networks or we were to share our methodologies, we have a fear that, we are going to lose out. That actually the sum of these parts can add up to something which is greater than, the whole itself in a lot of ways. And so my next phase in life as an entrepreneur, and also with this new organization that I've co-founded called Impact Velocity, is to see how we can empower and enable people who are in the entrepreneurship ecosystem to be able to collaborate in meaningful way, because, we don't have to take on this competitive mindset. We can take on a collaborative mindset.
Those are very wonderful hopes for women in Asia and entrepreneurship. When you said entrepreneurship as leading your own life, and I've talked about this a lot too in my coaching practice, is, when you breathe consciousness into your life, you're basically leading your life. And then if you're leading your life, you can lead a business, you can lead an organization. That's leadership is you breathe consciousness into your life and you take charge of your life. And I love that entrepreneurial mindset that you talk about. I wonder if you can tell people with just a couple of minutes left what that has felt to you to take charge of your life, how that has felt.
So I think for me, it's funny that you asked this question. I don't remember actually spiritual, right? But maybe about 10, 15 years ago, I did some work on myself to discover my purpose and to also articulate what's the mission or the vision for the organization that I wanted to be leading for myself. And I saw that who I was is really about elevating consciousness. And when I look at consciousness, it's about, people's self-awareness about themselves. And I think that's the most incredible gift that you can give yourself, because, life is going to be just life. There are good days and there are bad days. And if we took on the fact that this is our journey and we are on this path to be that emerging self who is better tomorrow, then, we can be present in the now. We can be with the people who are important. We can be doing things which are meaningful for us, and we can also contribute to humanity as a whole. And that's what's inspiring me. And those are the kind of projects that I work on today, because, I'm sort of nearing my 60s. And I think it's important to give myself fully to, just doing things that is meaningful, as well as doing things which is consistent with my purpose.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. If you are listening to this and you're curious to learn more about Dr. Ramesh and her book, The Big Jump into Entrepreneurship 2.0, it's got very wonderful pieces of advice. I know that many people out there are afraid to take that first step into entrepreneurship, but Dr. Ramesh, as she said earlier, she doesn't hold back, right? She doesn't believe in scarcity. She believes in sharing methodology. She believes in sharing, and she has lots of hopes for women in Asia to jump into entrepreneurship. So thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh, and a wonderful fireside chat.
You're welcome, Cheryl, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you once again for having me here.
I hope you're all inspired to entrepreneurship by the fireside chat. Let me introduce the next exciting fireside chat with Joselle Diocampo Gautam, by Board Director of FinTech Strategy Credit Do, Lorraine McKinnon, Workplace Strategist and Diversity and Inclusion Predictive Analytics Advisor, Silicon Valley Woman of Influence. I hope you enjoy this fireside chat.
Thank you for the introduction. We're delighted to be here. My name is Joselle Diocampo Gautam, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Lorraine McKinnon. And today we're going to chat about the landscape of venture funding, and also what are the implications for us here and funding readiness. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and kick it off. So Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today. So top of mind for folks in terms of growth and growing their businesses, of course, is funding and those important topics. I'm wondering if we could set the context a bit, and what are the important trends and the data that our audience should know about venture funding?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to talk more about this particular topic. We're in a very interesting time. Global venture funding is actually down right now. In third quarter of 2022, it was down about 53% compared to last year at this time. What we're seeing is valuations are down across major companies. Venture capitals are doing fewer investments in late stage businesses, although early stage startups are still getting some of the funding, but we're also hearing on the street that people are being told that they're going to, venture capitals may hold investments until they see a little bit more traction from companies. So oftentimes when there's a bump in the market, people rethink their strategy. They may tend to go back to more pattern matching, what's worked well for them, what they've got in their portfolio that they know is performing well in this environment. And so those are all things for us to be aware of as we're thinking about the venture market.
Thank you for setting that context. I'm wondering, it sounds like it's a down market. It also sounds like there's some interesting areas from a portfolio strategy standpoint. I'm wondering, what is the data that you're sharing and where we are today in the market? How does that inform what we should focus on in terms of funding, growth models? You mentioned a little bit about early stage and late stage. What's the implication on that?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's always a competitive market. This might make it a little bit more of a competitive market for startups looking to get funding. There are fewer dollars to be allocated. It just means you need to stand out a little bit more. Have more certainty about your vision, have more certainty around how your business, your product, your service is going to solve the problems that you've identified, what solving that problem may do for efficiency, for individuals, or for organizations. So really understanding the value proposition and being able to highlight that clearly, as you would at any time in the market. But now is a good time to be thinking about how crisp and clear you can be. And also, how will your organization perform in a recession? So if there's a down market, what are the things that are going to have people still want to use your service or buy your product? Why will people purchase your products or services over others? And in which way might you be cyclical, and what should investors expect in a down market? I think a lot of founders see like their business in an optimal environment, but the truth is there's always going to be ups and downs, especially over a long-term business environment. Understanding how you perform in each of those environments, or at least predicting how you'll perform in each of those environments and being realistic about it, will show investors that you've been thoughtful, that you are you're aware of different circumstances and different business environments, and that you've already put some planning in place. It gives them a lot more comfort when they're investing.
Great points. It's been shown through studies and also I think anecdotal here that women get a disproportionate slice of the funding. And given our audience here today, as well as what you shared around kind of down levels of funding and potentially thinking about more early stage growth companies, what are some important factors or kind of thinking that our audience should be aware of, given both the funding environment as well as the traditional connotation of women-led businesses?
Yeah. I mean, women get disproportionately, significantly lower amounts of funding. Back in the behavioral science and research on, women, even in corporate organizations, they said people tend to hire women for their past performance and hire men for their potential and future performance. So when you're launching a company, it's all about your future performance, right? It's all about your potential. And so we know that the cards are already stacked from a bias perspective against women in that regard. So being able to have a vision for your organization, understand the interconnected layers of your potential, having additional proof points from similar organizations, similar businesses or services can be really useful. I think sometimes just knowing that there's bias in these selection processes really helps you, because you realize it's not you, it's them. You probably have a very solid business plan. Certainly you're going to learn from your resources like today's talks and the other research and support that you have. You'll learn how to put together a top quality business plan and a top quality pitch. when that does not get funded, it does not mean that your idea is worse than others. And so you can kind of lift yourself up. Your job is to find the investors who are going to truly understand what you bring to the market, your personal potential, and how together you can help accelerate that. And so, being aware of the bias, just one of those little things you tuck in the back of your head. Sometimes it's a good excuse, it's a good relief to say, okay, well, I heard a lot of biased language. I heard them tell me that they didn't think that I had the potential that I'm proving to them I have on paper. And that's fine. They're probably not a good partner for you. And I'm sure you've seen similar things, Giselle, in your career as you've worked with startups. I'd be curious in your advice too.
Yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned around past performance versus kind of predicting future performance. And earlier as well, you mentioned about having in any environment, having a solid business case and a strong value proposition is important. I'm wondering how should we think about this idea of prediction and thinking about how does the market change, and you and I always discuss this concept of the TAM, and I'd love for you to share that with the audience and also have a kind of a conversation around how we think about the future and the value and the language.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we're out there solving problems, right? We're out there trying to bring a product or a service to market because it makes things better. It solves a problem. It makes something more efficient. Sort of understanding the dynamics around that and what is causing the problem really helps to solidify you as someone who thinks differently than others, who may have a vision for how things are going to evolve in the future, who's thinking about these interconnected dynamics, which is really important for a corporate leader. You may also be educating your investors. So the investors may not have anything like your proposed business in their portfolio. They may not have done a whole lot of research. Theoretically, they will as they look to invest in your organization. They'll be doing much more research, but really pointing them to the data, the facts, the potential scenarios of how your business could perform will help to sort of give that quality of your future potential because they'll see how thought through it is, and they'll be able to go and do some side conversations and some side research to sort of solidify those as points that would drive their investment. You're storytelling. You're telling them the things they need to be aware of.
Right. I love the point that you raised on educating your investors, and I'd also add your customers, potentially even your first hires and your additional hires. Oftentimes, be it in larger corporate settings or or kind of advising on companies that are taking literally their product from 0 to 1. I think an interesting thing that people tend to do, and this is human behavior, is we make assumptions that people know what we are talking about.
Yep.
So for instance, I'm working on this product, the problem is so clear, and we tend to jump into a scenario without context. And from my experience, context is king.
Absolutely.
And to the idea, and I brought up a term earlier that I wanted to make sure that our audience knows, which is TAM, total addressable market. And I loved what you discussed earlier, Lorraine, around thinking about the future and framing the future. And that idea of total addressable market is really important because that is something where it's, if your idea and all of its iterations and pivots were to come into fruition, those are the potential number of people, buyers, etc., that could potentially pay for your product or service effectively. And so I think with that framework, I'd love to ask you, Lorraine, back to this idea of, look, we're in a tight funding market. And from a, running a business standpoint, also feeling the squeeze, whether or not you're asking for funding now or funding for later. Supply chains are also constrained. There's, I think in different parts of the world, the employment levels and kind of the economic indicators are also trending to kind of down levels. What would you say are the things that kind of business owners and particularly women-led founders, what should they focus on now?
So many things, and not necessarily just because of gender, but certainly to be seen as having that potential that we just discussed is so important. Networking and meeting as many people as you can in your area, outside of your area. You mentioned something like supply chain, right? Like, how do you really get a sense of what's happening in the market, what's causing delays, what resources you might need for your business? Who else is watching this? Who else knows what's coming down the path? So doing that networking, reaching out to people. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource. Reaching out cold to people, telling them that you are a founder and you're bringing this idea to market. And you'd love to connect with them to learn a little bit more, to see what they think. Like, going out and networking is a huge, it takes a lot of time. It's a big task, but basically what you're doing is collecting information that's going to make you smarter, more agile, and just have sort of the next steps forming for you. So anytime you network with someone, you say, hey, who else do you think I should talk to? Right? So every networking event gives you information and also should give you the path to another person to talk to. Those sorts of things, especially when there's a fast changing environment, the more people that you know, the more people you're following on LinkedIn and you're seeing what they're posting, the more people you can reach out to and ask a quick question of, the more likely you're going to be in that information flow and able to adjust your business, pivot to another product, or see a new need that's coming in the market that may allow you to diversify your services.
Yeah, data and information around your market and how it's changing. I think that what I'm learning from you is networking is simply not only to expand kind of the people in your circle, but as a founder, you can also use it as an opportunity to iterate on your ideas, continue to educate others on, as we mentioned earlier, context setting for for your big idea. Uh, what are the missteps that you see or potentially opportunities, particularly for women in the context of, we don't, it's factually and a data driven, insight is that we simply don't get a lot of funding. It's very minimal. I think it was 2% of total funding
3 or
as of
4 is what I saw most
2021.
recently. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
globally.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what have you seen that I think it's good to know, like, what are missteps and what are opportunities?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll take this from sort of the broader context. And, I am American. I grew up in the US in a culture that was very much that girls are good, girls behave, girls follow the rules. Boys are expected to behave, but, boys will be boys. They may break the rules. They tend to get away with more mischief. And that really comes into the way that we operate in the workplace and the way that we run our businesses. So if you go to your ideal investor and you're super excited and you just know they're going to see your full value and they're going to invest, it fits so perfectly with their portfolio, and they say no, women will often be like, oh my goodness, they'll introvert themselves. They'll say, I was wrong. I'm not good enough, right? Our society, particularly in America, has sort of socialized us to think this way, where a lot of men would just say, oh, he's just not ready for me. I'm going to try again, in another year or in another 6 months, or I'm going to come back with another pitch that addresses their concerns. And so it's the persistence. Women are hugely resilient, but men are more often proactively persistent. And I think that's something that we can really learn. Don't take no for an answer. When you hear no, it's not really a no, it's a not yet or a not now. And that is something when you believe in what you're doing, when you've got your value prop, and I'm not saying that you don't make adjustments. You know, if somebody brings up something about your business plan that there's a flaw and you see it now and you can fix it, absolutely go fix it. But chances are there's an additional layer there of someone just trying to have an excuse to not invest in you because you don't match their pattern, or because they have other investors that they see more potential in. And so really making sure that you're standing your ground, that you're being persistent is something that we're not often trained to do as women,
Right.
but really need to do in this regard.
I love those words like proactive persistence. And I grew up in a very similar society as well. I grew up in the Asia Pacific and spent my business career here in the United States. But I would say, not to, categorize all countries similarly, but from my particular experience, having lived and worked in multiple Asian countries as well as the United States, the way you described it, how you were raised in that mental model, I see that very broadly as well. So in our last couple of minutes, if you were to give maybe 1 to 2 focus points for women-led businesses, and it could be a do or a don't, what would those be?
I think from my perspective right now, I'm really interested in brand and social media. How you get the word out about what you're doing, how you get found by others, how you start to build a reputation and a brand for yourself and your business. Very interested in the TikTok Douyin, the quick videos. I'm really surprised by how many products and services and thought leaders are getting a lot of followers in that space. It's quick, easy. The algorithms tend to put topics of interest in front of people who want those things. They're really doing a shortcut for businesses in finding customers. And we're starting to see more of these social media sites figure out the e-commerce. I think Douyin, the Chinese TikTok, is doing probably the best job of that. TikTok and Instagram are both trying to do more of that e-commerce. But just being aware of those new channels, new markets, new ways that people are hearing about things, new ways to build your brand would be one. And I think the other one would be just sort of thinking through your value proposition and future proofing it. There are a ton of free resources out there. One of them is from Reid Hoffman, who was the founder of LinkedIn and now works at a venture capital firm. And he's put out, like, here's a great pitch deck, like a sample template that you can follow. And it's his LinkedIn, his original pitch deck for LinkedIn, which is actually really similar to what it is today. So, when he first put that idea together and first built the vision and the value proposition, it's been the North Star, and the business still tracks to that North Star. So, and I think we see that across a lot of successful businesses. They may do small pivots, but generally speaking, they're heading in the same direction, which is very efficient. So putting that time into that vision, really thinking through and talking to a lot of different people about what your business could be if it's bigger. Like if somebody gives you $10 million, what does it look like? If somebody gives you $100 million, what does it look like? Because that will help you think through all of your opportunities and where you're going in the future.
I love that. And as a LinkedIn alum, I think that idea of future proofing and the North Star, which is create economic opportunities for people, it's very broad. And I think that the kind of key takeaways that I'm hearing from you, and just to summarize for the audience, is believe in what you're doing, and also be practical and understand your addressable market, and that you will have to pivot. And layering in what you mentioned, Lorraine, oftentimes as business leaders, whether we're building something new on our own or building something internally for a larger business, we get focused on the business practicalities of either visioning, mission, kind of executing. The other part of that is also evangelizing.
You bet.
And so I love what you started out with of, that especially for women-led businesses, predicting our potential is highly important. And building that brand seems like a way for us that's low cost, by the way. Most of these platforms don't require a nominal investment. And so I really love that thinking of how do you get out there so that you can show your potential in a different way. And so I feel like we could talk about this topic forever. And I want to end it as a note here. Lots of potential. And I've always kind of seen, never let a good crisis go to waste. We started this as there's down levels of fundings, and what you've shared around the way we think about the opportunities, the way we pivot, and really key aspects around proactively seeing your potential and pivoting. I think super, super powerful, and also future proofing. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lorraine. And thank you everybody here for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Go get them.
I hope you enjoyed that fireside chat. Right now is another special moment today where the following section is the project selected from the open call at Heroikka, and different ideas, businesses, and initiatives will be pitched to all of you. So let's hear from these amazing women from the Asia Pacific region.
Hello, my name is Claire Evans, and I am the Chief Learning Officer at School of Humanity. Welcome to School of Humanity, the high school for the world. We believe the world needs a new education system. 75% of students hate going to school and are disengaged with their learning. 84% of the information we learn in high school isn't useful to us later in life. And only 45% of students globally complete their high school education. Global education's inability to prepare humanity for the future is costing us around $11.5 trillion in the G20 countries alone. The School of Humanity is an online high school with an innovative learning model and interdisciplinary curriculum. The learners learn by tackling real-world challenges, and in so doing, they develop their skills, their knowledge, and dispositions, which helps them to become ready for their future. Our mission is to enable the next generation to create a purposeful future for themselves and for humanity, while our vision is to reinvent our global education systems to better serve humanity. School of Humanity was founded by Raya Bichari. Raya is a serial education entrepreneur. She founded Academy and was on the founding team of SciFest Dubai. She has won multiple awards and was nominated one of the BBC's 100 Most Influential Women. She's a global expert on education and educational systems and has a proven track record consulting for programs such as GEMS Education and the Saudi Space Commission. Our founding team is made up of experts from around the world with a wealth of knowledge in education and educational systems and in the financial sector. A little bit about us in numbers. From our launch in May 2021, we've had more than 150 learners in going through our programs. We've partnered with more than 20 organizations through micro-internship projects, partnering on consulting or partnering with mentors, for example. We've had learners from more than 25 countries from across 5 continents. 90% of learners say they love the program. 70% of our learners have been girls, and we work with a team of more than 20 educators who participate as learning facilitators, learning designers, or industry mentors. We're creating the high school for the world. The learners learn by solving real-world challenges. They will choose the challenge that they want to work on, and in so doing, their learning is driven by curiosity. They develop the skills they need for industries of the future. They will create a portfolio of projects and will also graduate from our program with a mastery transcript. They learn how to collaborate with learners globally, and they are becoming globally competent citizens. They learn how to network and create a network of leaders from around the world. and they also develop the flourishing skills for a meaningful life. We run 3 programs. We have a full-time high school, which was launched in September 2022. Our founding cohort is made up of 20 learners from 9 different countries. We also run an after-school program called Ascend. This is a 6-month program and is aimed at learners who want to complement their traditional school experience. And we also run a 6-week summer school program for learners who want to become future ready whilst and staying productive over the summer. Just to give a few examples of our interdisciplinary challenges, we have, for example, designing space settlements, art with technology, sustainable cities, to name but a few. At the core of our curriculum sits the human flourishing. Now, this really is an opportunity for learners to explore themselves, to learn about finding purpose and finding meaning. It gives them the opportunity to develop and understand about the growth mindset, to practice gratitude and consciousness, and really helps them have a meaningful life. To give a few examples of some of the projects that some of our learners have worked on, Sophia from Brazil designed a prototype of a robot that could create oxygen on Mars through electrolysis. Peace from Nigeria collaborated with a teammate to create a website that could educate people about cryptocurrencies. And Rania from India designed a solution that would use biomarkers and data to improve the diagnosis of endometriosis. All of our learners work very closely with their learning facilitators and their industry mentors who help them and guide them through the process of their designing a prototype and then coming up with their final solution. To reiterate, the learning experience is personalized. This means that the learners move at their own pace. They pick their own projects. Their learning is driven by curiosity, and they are supported by the School of Humanity team, their learning facilitators, and the industry mentor, who is an industry specialist, particularly in the area of the challenge that they have chosen to work on. If you would like to have more information, please do reach out to us either via email or via LinkedIn. And we're always happy to build new partnerships and to collaborate. So please do reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Tong. I am a newscaster turned award-winning storyteller. And my project is a Start a Story movement. And I would like to share screen with you. Okay, so this project came about because I speak a lot and I do a lot of webinars, I do a lot of seminars, and I also speak a lot publicly. And recently I spoke at a national conference 3 weeks ago. And a woman in the audience, she put her hand up and said, oh, I don't have any story. And even in the past, a lot of people were telling me, oh, you know, we don't really have a story that's worthy enough to tell. So that really sparked my desire and to really start a story movement, because I truly believe that every one of us has a worthy story to tell. And some of us even have a lot more stories to tell. So I want to encourage, you know, everybody, whether you have a business or not, you know, to really dig deeper and don't let yourself walk around thinking you don't have a story to tell. So I want to share with you my own background to let you know why I'm so passionate about storytelling. So I started my career as a TV news anchor. And because I was the newest addition in the newsroom, they decided, besides anchoring the news, they decided to give me a 5-minute human interest segment every day where I could cover anything but hard news. So I was on the job for 4 years and had the opportunity to interview thousands of people from all walks of life. And I ended up crafting over 1,200 on-air stories. So I have to say those 4 years really laid a very, very solid foundation for me as a storyteller. So all in all, I have over 25 years of both in front of and behind the camera experience. So after my news career, I started my own company, Duckpunk Productions, which I will tell you a little bit more. And after I started my company, I started producing and directing TV commercials and branded content for some of the Fortune 100 companies, such as Nissan, Verizon, Wells Fargo, just to name a few. And some of my clients actually have seen sales increase up to 400%. So like I said, I started my company in 2000 and has been 22 years and counting. And it is a creative marketing and content production company. My tagline is build your story, build your brand, because I believe there is nothing more powerful than truly crafting your own brand story to connect with the audience on an emotional level to build your brand, drive sales, and get more customers. So it has been my vision to inspire and teach every single entrepreneur and business owner, regardless of the size of your business, the power of storytelling and how to apply it in your business to help you build your brand, drive sales, and win more customers. So the concerns that we are really solving is, I have seen so many times over and over that there is such a huge disconnection between the brands and their customers. So we want to create brand storylines that are relatable and relevant to your target audience. And each storyline is campaignable for multi-touchpoint marketing assets and can be delivered across all demographics and delivery mediums. So I want to encourage all of you to join me in this story movement, #MyStory. And I want all of you to look deep inside and identify why you start your business. And again, the why is not the result. So a lot of people, when I ask this question, they say, oh, I want more time with my family. I want to have more flexible income. I want to make more money. Now, those are the result of your why, not really your why. So make sure you don't confuse yourself and really identify your why, your true reason for starting your business or wanting to be an entrepreneur. Second, the benefits you bring to your customers. So many of us walk around, just telling people how we do things, but we don't want people to, we don't need to know the how. We only know why we want to work, why we should be working with you, and also the benefits and transformation you bring to the table. And lastly, why are you and how are you different than your competitors? So I want you guys to identify these 3 key points. And then when you share your story, whether it's a video, it's a post, TikTok, whatever that is, just #MyStory. And I really wanted this movement to go far and beyond. And this is the way to connect with me. My company is called Duck Punk Productions, and this is where your story begins. And hashtag is Melissa Tong Duck Punk. And this is my email address and phone number and website. So feel free to connect with me. And I really want to go big. So I need your help to get this going. Again, #MyStory. Start telling your story because it is this powerful, and it will truly help you connect with your audience on an emotional level to achieve your goals. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Amy. Nice meeting you guys. Let me sharing my slides. Can you guys see my slides? And as I said, I'm Amy Lee, founder of Dance for Healing. We are an AI-powered telehealth platform that matches buddies for healthy habit building. We recorded and live video classes. Imagine YouTube meets Zoom meets eHarmony for health buddies. Our mission is making healthy habits accessible, supported, and fun. Our vision is to be a global culture hub, leading the experience and bridging art and health. Many of you have aging parents. Caregiving can be difficult. I know your pain because my mom is my caregiver during my stage 4 cancer. This is why I decided to dedicate my life to use my extensive background in AI research and behavior design to help patients like me and elders like my mom. Many of us stuck at home, isolated and lonely. Music and dance not only increase social connections and happiness, reduce falling, dementia risk, and cardiovascular death. Our easy-to-use interface tailored to various mobility and availability. The U.S. care economy is $648 billion. There are 73,000 elder communities. We conducted 100 interviews. 90% loves our program. By 2026, we target to reach 5,000 elder community. Started with national chains, the largest one, Brookdale, which we already a vendor. The telehealth have skyrocketed, not only in the US, but also internationally. Many exercise programs are already targeting fit people, and sticking to them is extremely difficult. Our competitors, Silver Sneaker, reach 122 million annual revenue. I know we can do better with many more benefits. Our pattern pending AI and behavior design will tailor you for the best mobility and accessibility in creating bonding experience with a compatible buddy. We started with Stanford Cancer Supported Care Program. And look at how happy these faces are. We won over 20 awards, including CES Annual Pitch, People's Choice Award, the international largest conference in tech. We now have $1 million grant pending. And we just got funded for a minority health grant. We also have additional $500,000 funding pending plus angel interest. So in 1 month, we were starting our NIH study. In 12 months, we project to have 2 million with both grants and also angel funding. In 24 months, we project to have 6 million with both sales and also funding. This will help us reach our long-term vision of insurance reimbursement. Meanwhile, we're starting with monthly subscription at $29. We targeting government procurement. VA already offering $800,000 contracts for traditional art studio. We believe we can be the online provider for that. We project to be profitable by 2026. Our diverse talent, including AI research, behavior design, Alzheimer's research, so successful dance company before. We also have mentoring advisors from Stanford and Harvard. So invest in our movement. Our patient will thank you. And let me show you our video. Music and dance helped me recover from stage 4 cancer and inspire me to launch Dance for Healing. We are a telehealth platform tailored to how you feel right now, different mobility levels and availabilities. We match buddies for patients and elders to build fun, lasting habits. We recorded in live video classes. Imagine YouTube meets Zoom meets eHarmony for health buddies. Many patients like me and elders like my mom are often stuck at home, isolated and lonely. Dancing increases social connections and happiness, prevents falling, reducing the risk of dementia and cardiovascular death. We started with Stanford Cancer Support Program, achieved a Net Promoter Score of 91. Most patients reported 80 to 100% reduction in anxiety and depression.
It was just a great class for me. I tell everybody that I wasn't sure about when you're on the computer. Virtual. I like that now.
I just think maybe I only can dance for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But now, just see, I have some muscle here. I can dance for an hour, no problem.
Yeah.
So really, I get my energy back.
Trauma from COVID and lockdown is in the body. Creative arts therapies develop stability, balance, flexibility, and spontaneity, building physical and emotional resilience.
Imagine every grandma and grandpa use dance for healing. How would the world look like? Tens of millions of people would not suffer from dementia and cardiovascular death. Many of you will not be fearful about your parents falling, and healthcare will save billions of dollars. What are you waiting for? Join us in the revolution to bring dancing to every single household in the world. All right, thank you.
So now I hope that powered you up again. Let's break and come back in 10 minutes. Welcome back from the break. Again, today is the Woman Impact Summit, Asia Pacific region. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker workshop entitled The Power of Leading Yourself First by Sonia Hasse, President of Destiny Women Global Manager, MBA, Human Strategist.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Hasse, and I am a speaker and life purpose coach. And in this session, I'm going to talk about the power of leading yourself first. So the first thing I want you to realize, and you probably know by now, but it's so important to hone in on this piece right here, is your potential of leading others is a direct result of leading yourself first. I'm going to say it again. Your potential of leading others is a direct result of leading yourself first. So now I want to talk about why. Why is that so important? Why do we have to focus on ourselves first before we lead others? Well, as leaders, it is because people are watching you and me on how we live and how we lead. And when we are people of influence, you have to position yourself in a way that you are fully walking in integrity, and you are thinking bigger, and you have the confidence and the ability to take on opportunities and challenges. And this is so crucial for every leader that wants to lead well. And that is why it is so important for us to lead ourselves first. So how do we do that? So how do we live and lead? Well, the first one is we are going to lead with discipline, okay? Every leader should live a disciplined life, okay? So when you think about waking up every day, you should already know what the agenda is going to be. You should already know how you are going to position yourself that very day. Already, it's already planned out, it's already in your mind, it's already positioned in your heart, and you're ready to show up either for yourself or for the world. But you have to be positioned every single day, okay? So the other one is integrity. Integrity is vital for leadership, okay? Because people have to learn how to trust you. You have to build the trust in others. And how do we do that? We do that by leading ourselves first, okay? And by doing the right thing every single time. And that is what builds our leadership. And it takes time. You know, we can't like wake up one day and say, I'm going to just be a leader today. I decided to be a leader today. No, it doesn't work that way. It works when we literally desire to lead others and we build on that every single day. Kind of like going to the military. You know, when you're going to boot camp and you have to get in the trenches and you have to position yourself in a way that you know you're going to get some hits, but how do we bounce back from it? Okay, these are the ways that we are going to build our leadership. Okay, We do have to get in there. We do have to get our hands dirty. We do have to fall and get back up again. And leadership is so powerful that once we truly understand the power of leading others is when you are going to look in the mirror and build yourself up in such a way that you shine. You shine because you've already positioned your mind, your body, and your spirit to lead with humility and with integrity. So the third one is leading with a purpose. What is your agenda? Okay, so what is your vision? And how are you going to reverse engineer and begin your leadership into that end result? So what does that leadership look like for you? So I'm going to repeat these three things on how do you live and how to lead, okay? It's with discipline, it's with integrity, and it's living on purpose for yourself, okay? So there's a lot of intention in becoming a great leader. But I will tell you, it is so worth it. And if you build on this every single day, if you invest in your growth every single day, you are going to see an enormous influence on your life. It is the most powerful thing that you can do, and it will bring transformation in people's lives and whatever it is that you're leading. So understand also that we cannot lead outside of ourselves. We can't do it. If I wake up without investing in myself, but I just get out there and I tell people what to do, and I go out there and I'm just like, just trying to make life happen without impact, it's not going to last. We are going to fall because leadership can be tough at times. It's a journey. And so we cannot just go and do. Okay, we can't do the leadership. We become the leadership. Okay, leadership is who we are. It is not what we do. This is so important. I've been in the leadership role for about 10 years. And when I first started leading, I literally had like hardly no experience in my leadership. But what did I do? I read the books, okay? I stepped out of my comfort zone. I worked on my belief in myself, and I worked in my belief in my abilities to lead well. Then I just went. I did it scared, but I knew that I was equipping myself, not only by applying, everything that I needed to learn about leadership, but I got out there and implemented it. And a lot of times I did it scared. So I don't know if you are leading in a small community or if you are leading globally. What I'm sharing with you right now about leading yourself first, about investing in yourself first, this is the most powerful thing that you can do for your growth and for your leadership and for others. Especially if you have in mind to leave a legacy. Lead yourself first. because that is how you are going to lead others well. There is absolutely no way that you are going to fail when at heart you are leading with integrity. I will say with integrity and heart. It is the most powerful thing that you can do. It has been the most, aside from, me giving birth to my own children, this is probably the next most powerful thing I did. Accomplishment that I did for myself is to learn how to lead myself so I can lead others. So now that I have been on this journey in the last 10 years and pivoting and moving up and taking on challenges and taking on opportunities, I have been able to go and reach out to people that I have worked with in the past to come and help me on a new journey. It's been so incredible because even though I was an amateur leader, a few years back, I led with heart. I led with conviction and integrity. And that is what has kept me as a leader intact. And another thing that is so important for you to become a great leader is to lead with your truth. Again, it's what you put in. So who are you as a leader? And who are you leading? And then ask yourself, what's missing right now in my leadership? It's a great question, and you should ask yourself that question every day. How are you leading well? And what's missing? And how can I build on my leadership in that area every single day? So for me, it was confidence. Okay, a few years back, and I'm still building on my confidence every single day. Every day, because I know that if I do not work on my confidence, I will hesitate on an opportunity. I will hesitate on a challenge. And I don't want to do that. I want to be able to, even if I'm a little bit nervous, I still want to be able to show up, with confidence and to say, yes, of course I can do it. When an opportunity arises, I don't want to say no. I want to say, yes, of course I can do this. And I just build on that. So if it is confidence for you, then build on that. Do the things that you need to do to build your confidence, okay? You might need to hire a coach, or you might need to, read more books, or you might need to take more action every single day to build on your confidence. But do what it takes. So build yourself up every single day. Come up, come up, come up. Because the people that you are leading can only go as high as you have led yourself. So every day, go higher. Every day, think higher. Okay? Expand your territory. Take the chance and get out there and get excited. Get excited about your leadership. Leadership involves people. So develop your people skills. I know that is something that I actually work on every day as well, because there are people out there with different personalities. Some are a little bit tougher than others. But once we understand that people are wired differently, now we can come to them in a way that brings harmony and not resistance. And this is what's going to expand your leadership, is understanding yourself first as a person, but also understanding the people around you and your community. It is so powerful. So stay encouraged, but there is always, I'm going to say it again, there is always something to work on within ourselves. So find out what area that is for you and work on that. Be determined to be the best you as a leader. Okay, remember, it's all about leading yourself first. Then from there, it's as within, so without. Okay, if we are frustrated with ourselves all the time because we just want to get things right, or we're perfectionists, if we start being so hard on ourselves, well, guess what? You're going to be hard on others. So the type of relationship that you have with yourself is going to reflect on others. So with that being said, well, how do you want others to treat you, right? That's how you treat yourself. Okay, you treat yourself with respect. You treat yourself with honor. You treat yourself with care, right? You do all these things. You wake up and you discipline yourself because you are worthy of leading well. Okay, and be it mind, body, and spirit, but lead yourself well. And you are going to see how your personal growth and your leadership growth is going to expand. How can it not? How can it not expand? I promise you that it will. When I stepped out in my women's network, when I first started, I had almost no experience. But I was building on myself every day. I built on myself every day. And I dared to talk to another leader. And I dared to get a coach. And I dared to read that next book. And I just kept daring myself because I believed that I deserved this. This is what I wanted. So if this is something that you want, if you want to lead with impact and you want to leave a legacy, then build on yourself every single day. It is the most powerful thing that you can do, is to build on you and then let it flow into other people's lives. And you're going to live an amazing life, and you're going to learn how to face the challenges that come up in your leadership. I know they come up because they've come up many, many times in my life, in my career, and I'm thankful for them because I learned from them, and I knew that I had to step up in my leadership, and I knew that I had to build on that and do better next time. So we're always learning. We're always needing to be coachable and to rise up in such a way where there is flow. There is flow in your life, and you're feeling good, and you're believing in yourself, and you believe that you can accomplish great things, and you believe that you can lead people well. This is so, so vital for you. If this is what you are desiring, then focus on you. Number one is you. You are the leader, okay? So build yourself up in such a way that your integrity is so intact, Okay. And your discipline is so intact. One thing I realized, I just started like this new, uh, I, I, I want to say maybe a new career in my life, that something I've never done before. So I'm actually now coaching and leading under $1 million platform. And I'm telling you, I feel like these last 10 years have built me up to position myself to lead well. Okay, if I did not do all those little steps every single day, I don't think I would be prepared for the positioning that I have right now. I also have, right now, I'm literally in the process of building an incredible opportunity in my area. And, I am honored, but I also feel ready. I feel ready for the position, and I feel ready for the challenges because I know that challenges come up. And so that's what makes life so exciting, is that you develop yourself, you open up yourself to these opportunities, you jump into those opportunities, and life gets exciting because now there's more opportunity, right? And that's what leadership is about. It will open up doors for you that you never thought would open up for you. I will tell you that right now. But if you do it right, you must lead yourself with full integrity. You must be so, so true to yourself, knowing that this is where you belong. You feel so energetically aligned to what you are doing, and it feels right. But I will also say this: if you are in a position where it doesn't feel right, it's not the right people you should be leading, then you need to pivot. Do not stay somewhere where you do not fit. It is so important that you stay in the flow of your leadership, that you stay in your truth. Very, very, very important. Find your way. You know you are a leader, so find your way, find your path, and find the people that you are supposed to lead. Okay? And once you do, it's going to be a pattern interruption. It probably will be, and that's okay. Do it. Do what it takes for you to be so well positioned that now it's just going to happen. It's just going to happen for you. Why? Because you're excited. You have momentum. You are energetically aligned to exactly where you are supposed to be. And that's where the magic is. That's where everything happens. When you are so aligned to your divine purpose, it shows up for you. Whatever you are supposed to be doing, it will come to you. You don't have to go out there trying to find it. The opportunities will come. It's like magic. It's so incredible. So stay aligned in your leadership. Pivot if you do not feel aligned, or you don't feel the momentum, you don't feel anything. You need to pivot. Make the changes necessary for you to lead well. Okay? And know that leadership is a mindset. Okay? It is who you are. It is not what you do. Okay? So position your mindset every day. Believe in yourself every day. Believe in your greatness every day. And get out there and do it. Do it with the best ability that you have, that you know you have. Okay? And you just get out there. If you stumble, so what? What if, right? Always think of that. That's what allows me to step out of my comfort zone, and it allows me to say yes to opportunities. You know, I kind of don't want to do it. I'm kind of scared, but what if? What if? What if I do? What's on the other side if I do take all these opportunities that are coming to me, right? So I personally was not a fan of leadership for so many years, but once I stepped into it, it grounded me. It so grounded me. And I want you to be grounded for by the end of the year, and then also for this new year coming up. Be so equipped that you are going to face every challenge and that you are going to lead well. And you are going to have the most amazing 2023. It's going to be so powerful, so powerful. So be prepared, equip yourself, and believe that you got this. But it will take investing in yourself every single day, every single day. So don't forget, confidence is so important in your leadership. Okay? Because if you do not have confidence in yourself, then others won't either. So get whatever is missing. I'm going to end with this. Whatever is missing in your leadership, or you're feeling like I have this gap, I know I need to work on this. That's the first thing you should do, and you should work on it every single day until you become the greatest leader, okay, in your industry. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you have been encouraged to lead well.
I hope you loved that workshop as much as I did. Next up, we have another incredible fireside chat with one of my favorite leaders, Dr. Aparajita Jedigunta. She is PhD in social psychology. She's a coach and a diversity and inclusion consultant, as well as an author. Also featured is Hua Ngo, Managing Director at Commensura. I hope you appreciate and love the next fireside chat.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Aparajita Jedigunta. I am a social psychologist and a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness consultant in the United States. I am also an Indian American immigrant woman and a two-time traumatic brain injury survivor. So happy to be here at the Women Impact Virtual Summit for 2022. And in this session, we want to have a conversation about how focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness, especially equity and accessibility to resources, is really critical for those of us in business as contributors or as entrepreneurs to help with the economic recovery that is necessary after the past couple of years. So throughout this conversation, this is going to be a very informal fireside chat. We're going to be sharing some insights with you. And through it all, what we would like you to take away from this is the golden thread of empathy and building connections and nurturing these connections being the key to leadership, and also being the key for us to be able to find the opportunities that we need to in the spaces that we're in. Now, to have this chat with me, I have an amazing, amazing person here. And tried that last name. Was going to introduce herself as well, but just very briefly, Hua is the UK Managing Director for Commensura, which is part of the Impellum Group, a global leader in talent acquisition and managed workforce solutions provider. Her leadership has elevated Commensura's services procurement offering, currently representing 170 projects across 17 clients, valued from £30,000 to £6 million and above. This growth has contributed to Commensura acquiring 125 clients worldwide and now managing a £950 million recruitment spend. Simultaneously, Hua has prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusivity, with 50% of the heads of the departments under her management being women. Well, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get started. So please go ahead.
Hi, AJ, and thank you for that introduction. I don't quite recognize myself in that, so blushing away as you were speaking, but it's a pleasure to be here on this, kind of fireside chat. So hello to everyone at the Women's Impact Summit. It's, a great honor to be invited to speak here. So, I won't go into my business background as AJ has, elaborated. I am the UK Managing Director for Commensura, so I have the privilege and the pleasure of leading a team of brilliant people. We have a really connected family at Commensura. So, I'm a proud female Asian leader, and really proud of the fact that 50% of my workforce are women. And of that, I'm trying to remember the stats off the top of my head, but I think around about 3% of our workforce also associate themselves as being non-white as well, which is phenomenal given the kind of national breakdown of ethnicity. But on a more human note, I'm of Chinese and Vietnamese origin. I came to the UK as a very young child, born in Vietnam, but came here as a child refugee. So I've had a very up and down and quite exciting journey, actually, growing up in social housing in London and coming from a very marginalised background, and now to where I am today. So I'm a very, very keen backer of other people from very similar backgrounds, helping them through their own social mobility journey as well. So back to you, AJ.
Thank you so much, Hua. And as we've connected over the past few days, to plan this, I cannot help but just be so inspired by your journey and how you've leveraged that to become a top management leader, and then also not just get there yourself, but really hold the door open so that more of us that have not historically been widely represented can get through that door. And that is something that I think is so necessary, and I really appreciate your leadership for that. So let's get into that like just using your journey and your position at Commensura, using your company and your experiences as sort of a case study of sorts. What are some of the gaps that you are seeing, particularly maybe for Asian people, in being able to run successful businesses and increase their profit margins, especially, after everything the world has gone through, the economic disruption that the world has gone through in the past couple of years? I'd love to kind of hear your insights on that.
I guess I'll flip that question a little bit on a more general approach, and how I guess the pandemic has kind of created gaps for Asian people trying to move up in their careers. I mean, for me, as an overall, visibility is hugely important in how we help rising talent see the art of the possible. In the UK, I think it's somewhere around about the 3.2% of our population identifies Asian. So there's not many of us anyway, and then to have role models within that very small percentage of people, there's even fewer people to pick from. And I'll sort of bring this to life as a young child. I remember growing up in the late 80s with my girlfriends, and we'd be chatting, fantasizing, we'd have questions like, who would you want to play you in a movie if you were famous? And I struggled. We didn't have those sort of role models in front of us. So for those reasons, I think visibility is really core to how businesses help. And in terms of solutioning, I think there's two things that we can really recommend to people. First is, as business leaders, to be more visible ourselves. It's really important to be brave and step up. again, very personal examples in the very early stages of my own career. I'd been very reticent to talk about my background. You know, I'm sure you've experienced it yourself. As I was building my way up in the business world, I had a very heavy sense of imposter syndrome, because you're trying to build a career, you know, kind of do all those great things. And I really didn't want the added weight of being ethnic or other added upon me whilst I was, you know, kind of showing my worth. Now, looking back and reminding myself to that child who was struggling to find famous people that I wanted to play me in a movie, I've realized actually I do have a duty to, I guess, be comfortable about being uncomfortable and stepping forward on that. So, you know, that's one thing I think in business, leaders encourage other leaders to kind of come up and be more visible. And secondly is also, as businesses, we need to build better mechanisms to allow more diverse voices to step up and be heard. A very practical example is in our organization, we have something called the Virtuoso Alliance. And that's a shadow board of people from across the world in our business at all different levels. It's, you know, kind of like you self-nominate yourself. And those people have the pleasure on a monthly basis to meet with our global CEO. Think of the power that kind of mechanism enables people. And you know, they go through things like, you know, what should we do for our DE&I and B strategy? How should we invest in our technology? And our CEO is great at using that as a brilliant sounding board to just double check that actually leadership are hearing it from all areas. So whilst this device isn't necessarily targeted at minority groups necessarily, I think those sort of examples and programs could be utilized to encourage more people of different voices to come up.
Absolutely, absolutely right. I love that Virtuoso Alliance and the idea of the shadow board, because it immediately just creates so much more engagement, and as well as that investment, you know, into the organization that we're working for, because it really shows employees and contributors that they are important, right? And that their voices are important, their perspectives are important. And it's one of those where in the nature of my work, that's something that I'm always telling leaders is, yes, profit margins are important, and yes, customers are important, but the first people that we are serving are our employees, each other, to make sure that they feel like they belong. And when they do, they are going to come to the tables, whatever tables and whatever spaces, with all of their ideas without holding back. And that's only going to kind of make us, you know, better as organizations for the future, right? And I think particularly, especially based on what you said, and you know, in your role, how you hold the door open for more people. As Asians, we also, I loved what you said about we need to be visible ourselves. You know, we need to step up as leaders, and we need to speak what our lived experiences are, what our insights are. And particularly, you know, I feel like there is this, you know, we know that Asian is an umbrella term put on us.
Yes, it
right?
is.
Because we identify very differently. It's so diverse. Yet there is this common thread through this umbrella of this fear, this real fear that if someone perceives us negatively, then they're perceiving our entire culture negatively.
Yeah,
right.
I can connect with that.
Yeah. So that for me is, you know, when you were speaking about being more visible, there was a solution in there too, because the more of us that do this more often, and we can start seeing ourselves as well as showing the world that we are so different that you cannot tokenize us. That tokenization would not make sense, right?
Absolutely. I feel that entirely, and yeah, it completely reflects the way yeah, my experiences really.
Yeah. And then there's that other piece of it, right? This fear also leads to this real concern about safety. And I don't necessarily mean physical safety, but this anxiety that may come up of, will there be negative repercussions, or how will somebody react? And I feel like, especially since the pandemic, with everything going virtual and a lot of things staying virtual, that's actually a really safe way to, or it is a safer way to be able to step up and show up and speak up. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how do you feel that going virtual has helped or hurt businesses? And, again, in your opinion, what might be some key solutions, especially for those who are from the larger Asian diaspora, where how they can do this effectively?
I think there's been, whilst the pandemic, pushed us towards going virtual, suddenly the world massively accelerated towards digital adoption and working. We saw that overnight in the UK when we all hunkered down and was locked in. But there were so many benefits to that as well. So, suddenly I had a broader reach, actually, because everybody's in the same place. We all connected. And as an organization, I found ourselves actually being more empathetic with each other. We had to be more purposeful with our communication. And I had been much clearer about our vision. And suddenly I was very aware that I was taking pastoral care of the commensurate family, because we're all going through these very tough times, and people's mental health and social, kind of emotional well-being was high up there. And I knew if I got that right, it meant that the business, would perform and do well, which it did. So in many ways, there were huge benefits from that. And I got a glimpse into people's houses. Because a bit like this, we suddenly went from being in the office, having very formalized meetings, and our professional and sort of personal life had very clear boundaries. While people are homeschooling, suddenly I saw lots of children running around. 30% of our workforce, are Asian, and there was a lot of multi-generational families. So I learned that actually a lot of people were having tough times because there may have been 5 adults, trying to fight for bandwidth and a quiet space to work. So it was, in many ways, we nurtured and became, kind of what the pandemic gave us was that sense of belonging and family. On the flip side, it also created lots of disconnects, because I wouldn't say our people were suffering from digital poverty, but actually accessibility to digital tools to do their jobs varied across the workforce. So we had to be very conscious of that and sort of adapt and make amends to it. But overall, I think across our workforce, I think we embraced it well and really enjoyed it. I don't know what your experiences were from a North American side.
I would say that, from my side, we in the course of my work, it was large extent what you were talking about in terms of, yes, we saw accessibility issues. Yes, we saw sort of the digital inclusion issues, especially with the larger, the more like the older generations of the workforce, having to adapt to these technological changes that were actually changing because of the disruption. And so they weren't organic, they were very sudden. And even those in those spaces were struggling to adapt. So of course, those who are not used to those spaces would struggle, right? So I saw that, and yes, I did see the improved connection and this real humanization of employees, like where it did catch some management leaders almost by surprise that, oh, people have lives, which of course we know they have lives, but there was like, until this time, there was this real separation of work, and work being this very sacred separate world that we step into, and then we step out of it into the rest of life, and then that's not the case. Work and life go hand in hand, and we have to understand that reality. In fact, that's how it always was. We created that artificial separation, you know. But the one thing, and I'm curious about your kind of, you know, your thoughts on this. One thing I did see that I feel like this is something that is really critical for the future when we talk about solutions on this, is the importance of all of us as leaders in business, but also as entrepreneurs and individual contributors, like whatever our role is in this in the global economy, to really understand the importance of aggregating and disaggregating data in meaningful ways, so that we don't kind of create false narratives, which then hurt opportunities for funding, promotions, business growth, whatever it may be. I'm curious about your thoughts on that from the, you know, from the UK perspective.
I fully agree, because when I fill in a form, for instance, and it asks for ethnicity, I'm either quite often as an other or in a bracket which I don't fully associate with, but we find the best one that fits us, don't we? And you know, from a personal perspective, I feel that, you know, we need to be sort of educating people better on the different categories that we think represents us. And equally, you know, your point about data can misrepresent, it's an interesting element. Earlier on, I talked about how proud I was that 50% of my, you know, kind of workforce are female, and, you know, 30% are Asian. If you scratch beneath that surface and that narrative, hand on heart, I can tell you, yes, 50% of my leadership and management are female, but none of them are non-white, bar me. So, you know, that tells me we're doing great work, but there's still other work still to be done. And that's the thing that people have to be quite careful about when they're looking at diversity statistics, and then determining the right strategy for their business to, you know, kind of bring in more different talent, etc. Because you can't do a kind of homogenized approach, and that's really important, to be that, you know, kind of insights driven, and be really curious about what the statistics are really telling you.
Absolutely. So I know we are coming up on our time. So as closing thoughts from you, what would you say, in like, if there's one thing that people can take away from this that's going to help them for their future, what would that be?
I think empathy is something that's core to all of this. So I see myself as somebody who's having intersectional experiences. So, you know, woman, ethnically diverse, refugee, all those lovely things. So actually that's helped me to not fully, but better understand things from another perspective. So, and I think all of us as leaders, as colleagues, we can do more of that. And so linking on to that, my generic advice to anyone who's inspiring in leadership is to say, you know, always be brave enough to be open-minded enough to hire better than you. And that means people that don't look like you. And actually make sure that your people really trust that you have their back. So if you're really clear in your vision and you know what you want them to achieve, trust them, let them go forth and find the answers, and don't dictate to them. So that's my little nugget of how FOA manages the business.
I absolutely love that. And yes, I think, you know, my take home message would be something similar, in that I think empathy starts with you. And I think empathy starts with you also realizing your self-worth and making sure that people that you first understand it, and that you're able to show it to other people, so that you represent yourself well. And when that happens, then, you know, we can talk about leadership, and we can talk about all of the other changes that do need to happen to build better businesses and for economic recovery. So Hua, thank you so much for having this chat. It was absolutely amazing, and I know we will connect more in the future, but I believe for those who are listening to this and watching this who want to connect with Hua or the details will be in the session program. And so please, if you have any other questions or want to have a greater chat with us, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And thank you all for listening in. And again, thank you, Hua.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed the last fireside chat. Now I'd love to talk about something we're all excited about. I'm going to present participants from the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. Leading will be Amelia Shaw, AWE team lead, who will talk about the program and introduce us to the following women entrepreneurs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amelia Shaw, and I'm joining you today from the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs from the U.S. Department of State. And we run the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs program, which is a U.S. government initiative to empower women all around the world with the knowledge, networks, and access they need to launch or scale a business. And we launched AWE in 2019 as a pilot program in just 26 countries. And today in 2022, this program has nearly quadrupled in size. We're in about 100 countries around the world. And when you think about it, that growth is really significant because this happened during COVID. We all remember COVID. So at a time when the world was going through this pretty severe economic contraction, this program was growing, and it was rising to the challenge to help women adapt to the economic shocks and the changes brought on by COVID during this massive economic downturn. And so we think of this expansion as really part of the testament to the resilience and the strength and the demand of this program around the world. Now, what is AWE? Think of it like a 3-month crash course in business for women entrepreneurs, many of whom have had little to no formal business training. And in this course, they can learn hard skill sets like marketing, finance, business planning, strategic planning. And it uses an online learning platform called Dream Builder, developed by Arizona State University. It's a fantastic platform. Do try it out. It's free. And it also includes mentoring from local business leaders and experts in country. So women are meeting every week in these classrooms, and they are networking with each other, and they're networking with the local business community where it is that they live. And what we really get excited about is that it promotes business growth, and we have the numbers to prove it. We did a survey in 2021 of 1,000 women. Nearly 3/4 of them told us that after completing this program, they earn more money. And about a third, 29%, said they're hiring more people. So these are really solid metrics in business growth when you think about it, because it's income generation and job creation. But it's more than that. AWE is really at its heart, it's a women's empowerment program. And it gives women the skills they need to become stronger decision makers and strategic planners. Women come out of this program feeling more confident about themselves and their abilities, and they're just better at selling themselves along with their businesses. And these are really important skills to be able to do, and also to be able to adapt to all these economic shocks that were caused by COVID. So I think what it comes down to, in my opinion, is that we as women are much more powerful in numbers. You know, when we come together, we become more powerful. And when we're interacting with women entrepreneurs who have the same fears, the same dreams, the same ambitions, the same challenges, it's this magical thing that creates a very powerful community. And if there's one thing that we hear over and over in our all classrooms, is women saying, looking around them at the women who are there and saying, if she can do this, I can do it too. And it's deeply empowering. And so with that, I am just so thrilled to be able to introduce to you our panel from Asia and the Pacific of fantastic women from many different countries who have gone through this program and who are going to present their businesses. We're so thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
Introducing the women entrepreneurs, Cindy Wong, founder and CEO of Ramba Hills Tea.
Hi, I'm Cindy Wong, CEO and founder of Ramba Hills Tea, and I'm from AWE, Malaysia. And this is my story. This is me in my past life, where I was severely overweight, face full of pimples, had low self-confidence, and poor health. This went on for more than 3 years. And one day I woke up and I realized I don't want to actually live my life like that. I want to be confident. I want to have good health. So I started my journey of self-transformation, and I stumbled upon tisanes. So I started to consume tisanes and to actually lead a healthy lifestyle. And within 9 months, I lost 18 kg. So with the results I achieved, I'm thinking, why is the beautiful tisanes not available to the community and the world? And that is where I saw the gap in the market. So the vision of Ramba Hills is to be the global brand of tisane and to put Malaysia on the international gastronomy map, and to create 100% natural, sugar-free and caffeine-free tea that is tasty and aromatic, and to serve at least 10 million cups of Ramba Hills tea by 2013. And our story started in 2014. We bootstrapped all the way. This is the apartment where I put the products in there. And our first exhibition, where I hustled my way to actually get a free booth. And since you're bootstrapping, I didn't have any help. So this is me sending the products to the supermarket. And this is a typical scene in a supermarket where a lot of products are full of chemicals, pesticides, flavoring, coloring for the costing and convenience of customers. But this is where Ramba Hills is different, where you want to supply natural and wholesome tea. And we believe in having direct interaction with the customers to serve them better. And this is me doing sampling at the first few outlets. And we believe in getting the best ingredients possible that meet our standards. So we'll do quality control check. And this is me at the ginger farm. Fresh ginger, misai kucing, or known as Java tea, lemongrass on the left, and on the right is Ceylon cinnamon. And these are the beautiful ingredients that we use in our blends. And we need to get the word out. So this is our first international trade exhibition in China. In our office, factory, and a warehouse currently. Production happening in our factory. This Ceylon cinnamon blend. Our products and our major milestones. The most significant is when we got the award from Paris last year. And also a halal certification for the benefit of our Muslim customers and the countries that we have trademarked in. So who are our main customers? Supermarkets, hampers, cafe, and gifting. And the team behind our wonderful brand. And the impact that we have on the community. We work with dignity every month in Malaysia. So what's the biggest challenge that we face as a business is our brand is actually lost among many, many other brands because we don't have that much funding and marketing compared to the big boys. And that is where we seek help from the women impact community to link us to the premium food and beverage distributors in Europe and US. Why these two countries is because Europe, to leverage on the award that we received last year, because it's a very premium award, which shows that our blends are actually very well accepted in that region. And for US, it's because our brand has already been trademarked in US. So with this, thank you very much, Women Impact Community, and also AWE Malaysia for the opportunity. With this, I would like to invite, if you do come to the region, please visit beautiful Malaysia. And this is our contact details. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for listening.
Boni Moy Nawa, at CEO at Saroni Tailoring Services, Papua New Guinea.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, WIS team and the US Embassy in PNG for the opportunity to speak at this year's Women Impact Summit. To begin with, my name is Boni Moy Nawa from Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, and I am the managing owner of Saroni Tailoring Services and also a pioneer member of the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, PNG. My business name is Saroni Tailoring Services. Saroni Tailoring is a passion-driven business started 7 years ago for self-sustainability purposes. Saroni Tailoring Services specializes in tailoring custom design garments and provides tailoring support to customer requirements. We also provide support programs like basic quality sewing skill and financial literacy training to rural women in and around the community. Because my business name does not match my drive, many are reluctant to support my cause. However, doesn't stop my focus to achieving my goal to deliver and to grow. My greatest challenge has been lack of financial support from desired NGOs or the recently outgone provincial government in my country, despite many attempts to grant applications and proposal submissions. However, as an O member, I did qualify a small grant from the US Small Grant Scheme in 2019 that I used to purchase domestic electric sewing machines, which I used to support my basic sewing program. In 2018, hard work and perseverance paid off through business takings and spouse support to achieving my sewing house built on customary land is where I currently operate from. Currently operate my tailoring business from and have conducted 3 trainings so far to 50 local women in the community, both in sewing skill and financial literacy training, which FLT was conducted in collaboration with a telco, Digital PNG Limited. So to continue my drive in the business, I feel I should refocus and revisit my business name, my business plan and business profile to suit the requirements of existing financial support systems should I need assistance in the future. A challenge I face would be a very demanding spouse who is forever reminding me to prioritize on the tailoring business alone and does not believe in my involvement in other leadership empowerment activities, which are deemed as time wasters. For me, this form of challenge empowers and elevates my mindset to prioritize and reach out to more positive mechanisms and or methods to progress and to avoid inconvenience. Brings me to the end of my pitch. Thank you.
Huang Chuing, CEO and founder at Bamboo Technology, Taiwan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linia, the CEO and founder of Bamboo Technology. I'm from Taiwan. And first of all, I would like to say it's my honor and I'm so delightful to share my business with you here. And now I have to share my screen now. Okay. Our product Here app provides AI emotional support for depression group. Amanda is an 18-year-old college student. She has suffered from depression for several months, and that makes her class attendance rate very bad. However, during the pandemic, it's very hard to make the appointment, and she can't afford the price of the therapist too. So she asked for college mental health center's help, and she started to use our product, Here app, so that she can express her feelings in the app freely and take emotional support by AI chatbot at any time. She can also purchase additional consult packages conducted by licensed therapists. After 3 months support, Amanda feels much better and her class performance also improved. According to WHO, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Although there are effective treatments for depression disorders, more than 75% of people in low and middle income receive no treatment because lack of mental health care providers. And 15% of them will commit suicide. That's why I start my business, because I hope more people can get help before we lost them. The secret of our success comes from AI voice emotion analysis technology. When the user speaks to the bot in the app, the algorithm will identify and analyze the voice, semantic, emotions, stress level, and automatically generate a customized plan to guide the user how to get relief at the present. Since we launched in 2019, we have over 100,000 download users, 85% high user retention rate, and and 15,000 monthly active users. We have such user stickinesses because we keep improving our user experience to become more heartwarming as well as empower AI algorithm. During 2020, especially during the epidemic, our users grow very fast, but we quickly find that B2C business model isn't work. Therefore, we turn to B2B model and we find our real customers are those overloading mental health centers. Let's take military campus, for example. One therapist is on average responsible for over 600 cases. Yes, that's insane. With Here app, we handle 80% of mild to moderate depression cases for them with 1/25 cost, compared to hire a new therapist to do so, so that the limited therapist can focus on severe cases. After we pivot to B2B model in 2021, the revenue has 200% year-over-year growth, and now our service has covered 200,000 users in Taiwan, and we help private and public sectors to prevent depression cases and suicide events. We have applied for 4 patents and 1 has been proved. Those IPs can fully protect our technique, and also we can authorize it to the research institution to earn more revenue in the future. We have a strong and dedicated team. I'm a licensed therapist with 10-year work experience in mental health. CTO Richard has more than 20 years experience in AI voice application and development. We lead an excellent and passionate cross-profession team to reach our goals. Next stage, we plan to expand our service in US, and there are 50 million depression people. Now we are looking for some local partners to work with and also fundraising for $1 million. We are Bamboo Technology and we support depression people 24/7 on the side. If you have any feedback or interest to co-work with us, please leave message by scan the QR code. I'm very happy to talk. And thank you.
Eunice Ing Silo, owner at Lane Micro Bakery and Coffee, Brunei.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eunice Low from Brunei. I am the owner of Lane Micro Bakery and Coffee. And we are actually a small bakery in Brunei, which specializes in French pastry, sourdough bread, and also specialty coffee. And the reason why we have decided to start this business is because we actually saw the gap and the lack of European bakes in town. And we are actually the first in town which specializes in these European bakes. And with the locals who are more culturally exposed these days, a lot of them crave for pastry that they have had in Europe, specialty coffee that they've had abroad. And we try to provide the local with these. So we actually, in order for us to continue the operation, we require consistent quality, especially with the border opening these days. We looking at maintaining the consistent quality of our pastry, of our coffee, in order to actually retain our customers. And also another thing to consider would be actually diversifying our income streams, not just selling as a brick and mortar, but also catering to corporate events and other events, other private events, and so that we can actually operate sustainably. And some of the challenges we have faced recently, the first one would definitely be inflation. This is actually affecting everyone in a sense that our raw materials costs have increased, not only once, but a few times, and quite a lot of ingredients as well. So in order to operate sustainably and also not compromise on the quality of our raw ingredients, we had to increase our selling price just 2 days ago, 1st of November, to overcome inflation. And yes, that's our business, our micro bakery here in Brunei, and we have been operating for 10 months now. We started in last December, and thank you so much for having us on the Women Impact Summit. And for more inquiries, you can contact lanemicrobakery@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Sirasar Bunma, CEO and co-founder at Here and Found, Thailand.
Hello, my name is May. So today I will introduce you my social enterprise called Here and Found, which I will share the screen. A minute. Okay, so have you ever been judged without doing anything wrong? This feeling also happened to the Karen people, one of the indigenous groups in Thailand. News call them the forest burner. Since then, people perceive them as bad people. So as a result, some Karen people stopped speaking their native language and left their way of life behind. The fallacious news and social media had affected not only one group, but have affected more than 7 million indigenous groups in Thailand. So with lack of acceptance by society leads to poverty. So I'm the co-founder of Here and Found, and our company is dedicated to present indigenous voice worldwide through music and preserving cultural treasures for the future generations. So since I was a music university student, I did many music and community programs with various indigenous communities, and I have found that indigenous music is totally linked to their identities, cultures, and livelihoods. So Here and Found, we are a central platform of indigenous and folklore music. We co-build the music archive with indigenous musicians, both old and new generations. Then we create diverse connection. We connect listeners through world music events. We connect travelers through music and film recording workshops, as well as other creative tourism programs. We cope with the COVID-19 situation by connecting media creators from around the world through our online local stock music websites. So this has become our focus now. And these 4 connections have uncovered indigenous voices and been able to create a new form of relationship, while the indigenous musicians have more income opportunity. So this is an example of our music that has been used in online advertising for one of the biggest music festival in Southeast Asia. And our music and sound can be a soundtrack for fashion show, documentaries, or corporate promotion videos, or even the exhibition. So we also have a music and sound production team to assist with you too. For the income, indigenous musicians earn 50 to 70% from the music license and performance fee. Another 30 to 50% goes to Here and Found to work with more ethnic groups. Moreover, we have Here and Found Fund that aims to support indigenous youth education and cultural activities. So we have worked with 35 musicians and performers accounting for 8 ethnic groups right now, and we aim to reach 55 musicians by next year. So by rewriting indigenous stories in these 3 years, their music reached more than 100,000 audiences, while 80% of them value more about the indigenous people. Like Dipunu, the current musician who has worked with us from the first day, he had already earned $2,000 and use our fund to solve his village problems. More than that, he gets connect with United Nations with our support. So as a result, he proudly wears the current dress and speak his mother language again, while our customers support the village products. So this is also happened to other indigenous musicians and performers, which allow them to overcome poverty and discrimination. Our team has first-hand experience working with local community for over 5 years. I led a Thai social enterprise to win a global tourism award and work for an international music production company. While Rax, the CMO, she specialized in communication and marketing, especially in making things easy for people to appreciate the charm of indigenous people. So the indigenous people have taught me a life lesson that I could not ask from anywhere else. I know it firsthand. However, their voice have been misjudged for a long time. And now with a common language like music, it will bridge divines and bring people together. So let's listen to the diverse voices and discover meaningful stories behind our music from our website. Thank you.
Claire Suzanne Wilson, Director and Owner at Kia Orana Collective, Cook Islands.
Kia ora, my name's Claire Wilson and I'm here from Kia ora Collective. We're all the way in the Cook Islands. It's a small dot on the map. I'm going to share my screen with you and my presentation for today. So I'll open it up now for you. Okay, so here we are. This is my business partner, Amy, and I. We're an innovative and conscious business in the Cook Islands. We're focused on creating opportunities for organizations and individuals here. We have 3 functions: consultancy, a studio, and community. And today we're focusing on our community aspect, our give back and inclusion in society here. So this is just a summary of some of the past projects we've worked on, from workshops, exhibitions, communications, and videos. So recently we had a New Zealand Paralympian, Sandy Waddell, speak in the Cook Islands. We hosted this event for government agencies, NGOs, and the tourism industry. What we were talking about is dismantling the barriers that hinder meaningful participation in Cook Islands life, whether it's for a visitor or a local. Sandy's passionate about making the Cook Islands a popular travel destination for persons with disabilities in New Zealand. This event sparked motivation and conversation and excitement about what we're going to do next and where we're going to go. Sandy kindly donated her beach wheelchair. There's a photo of her husband, Brian, and my business partner, Amy, at the bottom there. This is just a snapshot of accessibility in the Cook Islands. It's not very good at the moment, but there's opportunity for it to be great. As you can see, we don't have any accessible vehicles. There are limited footpaths, potholes, lots of sand, and often stairways. So it makes it difficult for our visitors. So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is to target a new market: visitors with disabilities in New Zealand. 1 in 4 people in New Zealand have identified as having a disability. And New Zealand is our biggest market of visitor arrivals. We have 105,000 arrivals that came through in 2019. The next opportunity is the accessibility businesses, to have mobile equipment for hire, to have mobile transport services. It's also going to encourage an increased profit for tourism operators during the low season, encouraging Kiwis to come through in their summer. It's also going to benefit the local community and persons with disabilities. We have 2,914 persons identified as having a disability in the Cook Islands. This will encourage greater inclusion and opportunity for everybody. How do we make this happen? 1, let's keep the discussion going. We need to bring in as many people as we can. We'll do this through establishing communication channels and encouraging partnerships. We want to provide ongoing support and training, bringing Sandy back to do accessibility audits, workshops, and presentations to specific groups. We'll develop the resources here in Rarotonga and start to have equipment available and help our accommodation providers improve their offering. Manage the storing and the maintenance of this equipment. We'll create the ideal visitor journey for persons with disabilities so they can see what their experience will be like. We'll start hiring out the equipment and making money that can then feed back not only into running that business, but back into the disability community here in the Cook Islands. So what do we need from the Women Impact Summit? We're looking for like-minded individuals to connect with, communication and exposure, support, tips and advice on best practice in your country. Perhaps it's funding opportunities. We want to talk to you. Maybe it's technical assistance. So reach out to us. We would love to talk to you at any point. My name's Claire Wilson, and you can email me at Claire, CLAIRE, at kioranacollective.com. So that's KIAORANACOLLECTIVE. Thank you very much. Me taki ma'ata, and muchas gracias for having me. Bye.
I hope that was incredible for you just as much as it was for me. The next speaker coming up is a really prominent leader in the Iranian community, as well as a prominent leader here in San Francisco. Mahsa Hakimi, #MeToo, and she will be giving you an update on her perspective on what's happening in Iran. So here she is, Mahsa Hakimi.
Hi, I'm Mahsa Hakimi. I am the founder of Hakimi Law, a firm in San Francisco, and I have been an LGBTQ and a women's rights activist for almost 3 decades. I'm currently the art commissioner for the city of San Francisco, and I'm also a member of the San Francisco Planning Department Community Equity Advisory Council. I'm very happy to be back at the Women Impact Summit, which I have been asked to share about the first women-led revolution that is taking place currently in Iran. This is a very personal issue to me, as I am an Iranian and an immigrant of the US for the last 35 years. I came here with my family after the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, which established the current Islamic Republic regime, a very conservative, religious-based government that has had a direct effect on me as a young girl, as one of the most important pillars of the government was its anti-women campaigns, specifically the compulsory hijab laws for women, which was enforced through brutality of what became the mortality police for the last 40 years. The government has spent the last 4 decades enforcing gender segregation and gender apartheid, forcing women into second-class citizens under the disguise of Islamic values and laws. While women in Iran have been fighting for their rights throughout the last 4 decades, the resistance has continuously been marginalized and silenced by the government's iron fist, as this issue was never considered a human right issue, but rather a minority resistance issue. And so it never had the tipping point of support of a collective community. However, with the change in the demographics of the population in Iran, which is now more than 60% under 30 today, and the universities actually having more than 60% of their students being women, something extraordinary has happened. So with the access to the global information through the internet and following the recent civil rights movements in the last few years, specifically the gay rights movement, the Me Too movement, and the Black Lives Matter, the resistance by women in Iran has evolved into a human rights issue of right to choose and self-determination, and amplified by the new Gen X in Iran. After the recent election of the conservative president this last year, who campaigned on enforcing the Islamic values and insists on cracking down of the government on the youth on the streets, in the last year, the government has reinstated the re-education centers for the women who the morality police has amplified and focused its harassment, with the objective to basically force them into following the compulsory, the more restrictive compulsory hijab rules. On September 16th of 2022, a young woman in the name of Mahsa Jina Amini, age 22, was arrested on the streets of Tehran by the morality police, who took her into these re-education centers for not wearing her headscarf properly. What was extraordinary in the situation was that while she was in custody, she was brutally beaten, which resulted in her dying, actually going to coma and then dying 3 days later. So the purpose of these, technically, these re-education centers were not intended to be punishing to death, but rather re-educating women. So this brutal murder resulted in women taking on the streets of Iran in protest, and they did something extraordinary this time. They united in a simple act of peaceful disobedience, of just removing their headscarf in public, knowing the risk of severe physical punishment. And while the morality police started harassing them, what was also extraordinary was that the young men started joining them in solidarity and standing next to them, chanting the now well-populist slogan, "Women, Life, Freedom." Now, this was extraordinary because it wasn't a resistance for economic or just political issues, but rather women's rights issues became the center and upfront issue of this movement. So it is now 6 weeks in which people of Iran have taken on the streets in protest for the brutality of the government and to end this gender segregation, which the government has fought back with the iron fist. And to date, over 300 civilians have been murdered on the streets, mostly young people, some as young as 14. But more significantly, what started as a simple act of civil, peaceful resistance for women demanding right to choose has now evolved into a global catalyst for women demanding end to gender segregation and right to the self-determination. Women around the globe have started showing their solidarity by cutting their hair and burning scarves, while global celebrities and world-renowned influencers, activists, and politicians have voiced solidarity with the women and people of Iran by amplifying the message of woman, life, freedom. It is important for the global community to understand that this is no longer just an anti-government protest in Iran, but the first intersectional feminine revolution in modern history, demanding an end to the global gender segregation and equality for all marginalized. That is why the slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom," has resonated with the global community who are showing their solidarity outside of Iran by amplifying the voices of the people of Iran through weekly protests throughout the world, online campaigns, international petitions, and keeping the news relevant in international media. However, as the regime in Iran has escalated in response, their response on these peaceful demonstrations in the streets of Iran, the international community has a continued obligation to amplify these voices so that we can make sure we keep the pressure on the Iranian government through international mechanics, such as the UN and Amnesty International, to speak against the human rights violations in Iran. Bottom line, there is power in numbers. So we as the diaspora of the Iranian immigrants in US and civil rights activists outside of Iran, are asking our global allies and communities to help by keeping and spreading the news of what is happening on the streets of Iran to keep the Western media engaged. These conversations cannot just be isolated within the Iranian diaspora community, but it needs to be expanded and continue to be outside of the of that community and more on a global level and international voice. We also ask that you keep posting on social media about what's happening in Iran so that you can keep people engaged and continue the conversation and the pressure. We also ask that you keep pushing the political leaders and international organizations, especially the US, Canada, Europe, and of course the UN and international courts and international amnesty, to put pressure on the Iranian regime to stand in solidarity with the people of Iran and make sure to pass resolutions that will hold the Iranian authorities accountable should they account to flee and take sanctuary in other countries. There are currently petitions circulating in social media for the UN to remove Islamic Republic from the Commission on Status of Women, which we ask that you find and sign. And I'd be happy to share that information if you reach out to me. But more important than anything else, if you do see any Iranian woman, just give them a hug. That's all we ask. And we thank you. And I thank you for this opportunity to talk on this panel. And I look forward to the day that we will not have to be killed for just asking for the right to choose. Thank you for your time. And feel free to reach out to me. I will share my social media if there's any questions that I can ask. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Masa Hakimi, for that moving piece and update. Well, today we are done with Asia Pacific. I hope you've appreciated all these incredible, incredible women leaders who have taken the time to pitch their businesses, their projects, and talked about different pieces of what's happening in the Asia Pacific region. And we hope that you will also join us tomorrow for Day of Africa, where women in the African continent will be pitching and talking and offering their thought leadership on different pieces that's going on in Africa too. We hope to see you tomorrow. Take care, and thank you for being a part of the Women Impact Summit. Once again, I'm Cheryl Leong, founder of Leading with Consciousness. I have loved and appreciated being your mistress of ceremony. Have a good day.